everybody. This is John Marola from Keeping It Real Section 5 Football. And tonight is our 18th episode. And I've always said it, we're just moving right along. And can't believe we got 18 in. So, but what we're going to do tonight is, first of all, I got to introduce my partner on my far left, Section 5 Hall of Famer, Paul Brigandi. Paul?
Hello, John, and welcome, Gene. Coach Mastin's here today. What an honor it is to have the all-time winningest coach in Section 5 football history.
Yep, and very excited about having him here tonight. It's just going to be a lot of fun. A couple things I just want to talk about right now, like I get my glasses back on for this part, is I forgot to say last time, make sure you go in, if you haven't yet. We're getting a great views. People are viewing it. They're watching us. It's great. That's growing. Just the subscribe. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe to our channel. It's free. I mean, I don't know how many things in the world we get these days that are free. So that's one good thing. And it, like I said, it just helps our channel to grow, and it does a lot of good for us. The other thing is, tonight is our last episode here at the house. Next episode, we will be at Westside Camp. And what we're going to do, there's 3 nights of it, August 5th, 6th, and 7th. And we're going to interview 4 coaches, head coaches a night, with a couple of their players each night. So it'll be 4, 8, and 12. And that'll be just, it's another thing we're looking forward to doing. August 19th is another real big day for us, first day of practice. And we are going to be up at Irondequoit High School, and I will give you the times and everything when we're up at Westside Camp. But we're going to attempt to do that live. And we're just, looking forward to doing that. After that, the first game of the year, Eastridge is at Irondequoit. Paul and I will be there, along with Dave Lanning, our new sideline reporter. He'll be with us too that night, and that'll be the opening game. And we're going to do that live. And what basically we're going to do is like a half hour, 40-minute pregame, little 5-minute halftime, and like a half hour or so postgame. And if you actually want to watch the game, Varsity Media will be there, and you can watch the game through them. So that's what we got going on. And just like I said, after that, then we'll be at Premier Sports during the season. And just stay tuned. It's football's getting closer and closer. You ready, Paul?
I'm ready. Well, let's get started right away with Coach. Coach, how did you get started as a youth getting involved in the sport of football?
Well, it was in the late 60s, and I was at Geneseo High School, and there weren't any youth teams or anything like that back then. So when you got to 9th grade, you started in JVs. And, I got into football there, played on some very good teams. I was not very good, but I played with great teammates. And, the one thing that stuck with me there, more than anything, the first probably great lesson that I ever had was the power of people being on a team. And we had some terrific players. They went on to college and played and became lifetime friends. But I just really learned the power of team at that point. And not being a particularly good player, I think that's something that kind of, let's say, burned in me for all of my coaching career. You wanted to just make sure that you put your best foot forward all the time.
Well, you say then you go on to college, and I guess I want to ask, how did you decide to which college did you decide to go to, and were you always interested in education, or was there another avenue you were thinking of going to? And then I guess to take it a step further, where did the coaching, did that attraction come when you were in college?
Well, I'll tell you what happened in college. It was interesting. I went to Brockport, and even though I wasn't a good high school player, they were going to have a freshman program. And there was a meeting about it. So we want everybody to come back next week. So we came back next week, and they said, we want you to come back the week after that. By the time it all got done, we didn't have a freshman program. So guy on my floor had a lacrosse stick. And so I ended up picking up lacrosse. And I tell everybody this. That was so long ago that my first lacrosse stick was an all wood stick.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So, but I kind of, I mean, we always went to football games and things like that. And Brockport at the time was kind of a low end on things in football. And when I got out in 1976, I took my first teaching position in a little town down near Olean, Cuba. And I had no intentions. I just wanted to be a teacher. And I went down to teach, and I got there, and the athletic director at the time came up and said, we need a JV football coach. And I said, okay. I mean, being young and naive, I said, okay. And I mean, I was 2 days into practice, and I mean, I was all over. I loved it. And when I say I was JV football coach, I was a coach. There was no assistant coaches. There was nothing. So right out of the gate, you get hands-on to everything. And I stayed there for 3 years. And in May of '79, I was reading the Olean newspaper, which was one of the great daily newspapers in the nation at the time. They were talking about a school in western Pennsylvania, a small school, Cameron County High School, and they didn't have a football coach. It was May, and nobody wanted it. They'd been 0-10 for 2 years in a row, and being 25 years old, very naive, bordering on stupid, I said, well, I think I'll apply. Well, I got the job.
Lucky you.
Yeah, lucky me. So I went down, and I was fortunate to run into some great kids down there. And, you know, the first year we won 2 games and tied 1. And then the next year we won 3 games. And then the following 2 years we won 7 games, 10-game schedule, won 7 games each of those years and won the league. And so you get into my 4th year there, and I had my best team coming back, one of my best teams. And I was home visiting my parents, and I read about the Hornell. This was late April. I read about the Hornell job being open, and I thought, well, I'll make a couple calls and just see. And somebody said, first guy I talked to said, you don't want that job. He said they haven't had a winning season since 1964. In fact, I'll tell you, they said Nick Tito was the head coach here, and he couldn't win.
Wow.
And that stood out for me right out of the gate.
Legendary coach.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the best ever. And then I looked at the schedule. And that fall, there were 2 games in Binghamton and another game in Oneonta. And I thought, oh, you know. And again, being only 4 years older and still stupid and still naive, I took the job. And, you know, it turned out great. I mean, I was attracted to Hornell because it was a railroad town. And when you have railroad people, you know, you got people that aren't afraid to work and sweat. And let's be real honest, most railroad people are football people too.
Yeah, you're right.
And so I stayed there. I coached there for 28 years. Year off in '96, went Alfred was the defensive coordinator. And no disrespect, but I was there 2 or 3 days. The players weren't even in, and I thought, I'm not doing this. So I finished the season there and, you know, left. And fortunately, the guy that took over for me in Hornell, John Arnold, a great guy, said he didn't want to do that anymore. So they let me back, and we had a really good run from there on. I think we won something like 140 games in 15 years.
Wow, a fantastic
So,
career.
yeah, you know, but a fantastic career means that you had great coaches to work with. It means that you had kids that were really willing to buy in. You know, the word I hear today in sports all over is we want to establish a culture.
Yeah.
When I listened to Bobby Bates here, I loved everything about what he said, you know, because they've really, and Danny Fichter, they've established great cultures in their programs. And, you know, we were able to put a culture together. And what culture is to me was real simple. You were going to have expectations, but you were going to have accountability for that. And the accountability for that always started with me. the way I had to handle myself, the way I would never want players to do more than I would do. And you have to build relationships with players, communicate, but also have standards, like Bobby had said. And we did a pretty good job of that. I mean, it wasn't perfect. Nothing's perfect. And but when I see the players that I coach now, they look back and most of them had a good experience. Not all, but most had a good experience. And we were fortunate. I was lucky. How many people get to end their last game ever without a loss? I mean, most seasons end in a loss, right?
That's the way to go out. Right?
But to go out like we did with 3 state championships, I was very fortunate.
Let me ask you this: so when you get that head coaching job, and who are you looking to as mentors, role models? Who'd you lean on during that early part of your career? As far as the coaching and people that you could talk to that you respected.
Well, it's interesting, Paul. I really didn't have a mentor, so to speak. I coached a total of 36 years, and the only year that I was an assistant coach was the year that I was at Alfred. So I was kind of learning on the fly. When I went to Pennsylvania in '79, I was no more prepared to take a head coaching job. But the league that we were in was so strong and so competitive that you really started, looking at the coaches you were coaching against and, okay, how is this working? How is that? And the other thing that was great about those guys was, they were always willing to talk to you about football. It wasn't like there's any great secrets. And, the thing that I learned back at that time is if you really want to be good, number one, roll up your sleeves and go to work. And number two, forget about making any excuses because nobody's going to feel sorry for you.
That's right. That's right.
And I think I took some of that into Hornell. And I think we just built along with it. But, in terms of role models, well, there are a lot of role models. But mentors and things like that, I really didn't have them. In the sense that there was somebody I could go, lean on their shoulder and, cry little baby tears and, there's none of that.
Yeah.
And you learn pretty soon, nobody's going to feel sorry for you.
No.
You get up and you go. And I think if I had mentors and things, I think we were big clinic goers.
Okay.
And you started to go
learn,
see why people were successful. I was less concerned about, going to clinics and picking up an offensive package or a defensive package, but you're trying to, okay, how are they dealing with this situation? What I really liked to learn was how they were teaching things. And I had a, before I was even in Hornell, I went with the guys from Pennsylvania that I coached against, and we went down to the Harrisburg clinic. Remember the old Frank Glazier clinic?
Yeah, right. He was a New Jersey guy. Right.
Frank would stand up there and, I don't want you guys talking garbage,
You didn't want them telling jokes. You wanted them
no
talking football.
jokes. So the first day we went down to that clinic, it was on a Friday, Cincinnati Bengals offensive staff came in. And I probably listened to the best clinician I've ever listened to this day, and that was Jim McNally. Now, a lot of the younger coaches won't know who Jim McNally is, but he probably revolutionized offensive line play technique. And we went back to the room that night, and we're just shaking our heads and said, do we know anything about football? And then the next day we got up and went back, and it was the Washington Redskins offense.
Wow.
And that was Joe Bugle and that whole group. And you got done, and you just think, maybe we ought to just go home. So the next...
I just want to let everybody know that originally on this episode, there was Gene with us, and we also had Dave Whitcomb coming from Midlace. Well, my phone just ringing. That was him calling. He's got some family stuff going on, and he's got to take care of that. And, I mean, he felt really bad about not being here or whatever. But I told him, take care of what you got to take care of. Family's family. So take care of that. And we will have a show with him coming on hopefully in the near future. But I just want to let everybody know, originally there was going to be the number one and number 2 winningest. I don't even know who. We'll get into that, but I don't even know who's number 1 and number 2 right now. So, but anyways, we'll come back to Gene right now talking, and we'll just pick it up from there.
I just was tying up on what I mentioned about the Glazier Clinic that weekend. That Sunday, the UCLA staff came on and they talked about how they taught their defense, and that's something that just stuck with us all the way out. The way that you communicate the things that the players need to see. You know, one thing that in terms of, I'm not sure it's really mentoring, but I think if I had a great influence in my coaching, it had to do with a lot of the coaches that I coached against. And I'm sure I'm going to miss somebody in here, but you know, I had the fortune to coach against one of the greatest people I ever knew, and that was Don Quinn. But there was also Bill McAlee and Mike Foster and Lenny Colavito, Dave Wickham. And then when we got into the Livingston County League, you know, you start looking at people like Mike Monticelli and Brian Moran and Wayne Carroll and Tim McMullen and Steve Girolamo. What do they all have in common? They're all in the Hall of Fame. Nick Tita. You know,
They're all fantastic coaches.
Yeah, all great coaches, and you know, you can't prepare for teams coached by people like that without looking at the things that they're doing and saying, "Wow, that's fantastic," because there's a reason that they were that good. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I would say about all of those people, that is a rare thing anymore, and all of those guys were 20 to 30 year, I guess, legacy coaches. You know, they all ran their programs, and everybody then, if you were a player at, you know, at Bath, and you were going to play football at Bath, and you know what Wayne wanted, you know, and I thought that's what made the program so strong all the way across all those. At ER, every kid in ER that was coming through to play for Coach Quinn, they knew the expectations. Right. At Canandaigua, for Mike Foster, you know what it was about. And I thought that, and the fact that all of those people had good assistants that worked with their culture, I thought that's what made the strength of those programs. And we were fortunate enough to play them because that strengthened us. You know, if you played somebody that was good, you had to find a way to get better. You know, and you know, that was kind of what took us to the end.
That kind of leads us to the next question, Coach. When you had to select a coaching staff, and for our listeners, what were you looking for in your assistants that you would hire, and I guess the role of the assistant coach and the role of the head coach?
Well, when you get into smaller communities like ours, I mean, the coaches aren't falling off trees, and they're not any place. Mm-hmm. And I think the first thing that you're looking at is trying to find somebody that's going to have the time and the energy to put in a program. You know, and it can't be somebody that's just going to show up, you know, at the beginning of practice and leave at the end. You know, there's a lot of other time and commitment that goes in. But I think some other things that you really want are people that are committed to young people. Yeah. They're concerned about watching the young people grow. One thing I've seen about coaches, particularly assistant coaches, that we really valued, and in all sports, is you have to be willing to communicate. And you know, years ago, 50 years ago, you know, I think sometimes it was, you know, the coach barked and the player jumped. Mm-hmm. And somehow along the way, it became perceived that communicating was like a weakness. But it isn't, it's a strength, because the more that you can communicate the things that you want to the player, then the greater that they can perform in those. Yeah. And I guess the other thing I would say about those coaches, Paul, would be coaches are always preaching to players about getting better, getting stronger, getting faster, but getting better. But all the time, coaches need to get better too. Mm-hmm. Because if you're going to be stagnant, and by the way, getting better doesn't mean changing everything. Getting better means finding the ways within the program. I was in a class in the 70s where they said, what is the single most important quality of an assistant coach? And loyalty. Yeah. You know, they're going to be true to you, but they need to be able to say, look, you know, we can do this. And then as a head coach, you have to take that in. as a head coach, I always thought one of my most important things that I did with assistant coaches was to teach them what we needed. I wasn't looking for them to install an offense or a defense, although ideas were always welcome. But if I said no, it was no. That's a complete sentence. But we were always looking for coaches that wanted to learn and wanted to get better. When I came to Hornell, I acquired a couple coaches, and they were fine for 2 years. But then from '85 until I retired after 2011, I only had a total of 6 coaches. And I mean, we were a staff of 3, me and 2 assistants, but we only had 6 total coaches over the time, and the longevity of that I thought was tremendous. They were great people, and you mentioned about the wins and stuff that are credited to me, but I share those with the assistant coaches and the players. I mean, we're doing nothing without all of that working together.
Yeah. One thing I do want to let people know, and we talked about this earlier, was that Gene is the #1 winningest high school coach in Section 5. At Hornell, he has 221 victories with only 56 losses and 3 ties. Overall, he has 240 wins in Section 5. And it's like records that will never be broken, because we were talking earlier about, coaches these days. I don't see coaches coaching more than 10 years.
Longevity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Dave Whitcomb's going to break the 240.
Oh.
I mean, he's going to do that. There's no question. And God bless him for that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a quick story, just as long as we're just chatting. One of the people that I have idolized in coaching is Don Santini. And someplace around, I don't know what it was, 2009 maybe, I got our 203rd or 204th win, and Don had the previous record of 203.
Right. Yes.
8 o'clock in the morning, my phone rings. It's Don congratulating.
Oh,
I just
really? Class act.
As a coach, those are the kind of people I want to be.
Yes.
I wanted to be the Don Santini or the Werner Kleeman or the Don Quinn and I just I've always remembered that. That always really stuck with me nicely.
Special day.
But I kid people about this. You mentioned the wins and losses. I think it was 221 wins at Hornell and 56 losses. If you're going to survive, that's about the ratio you need.
Yeah, you're right.
You're going to hang it over long.
Anything over 56.
Yeah, you're right. You got to take those.
You're right, though, but you're talking about those people. When you talk about Santini, myself, fortunate enough, when my father left Cardinal Mooney and went to Fairport with Don, we all said, as a family, we were like, wow, Don went to football heaven. You know what I'm saying? And being around Don when I was like in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, just looking up and just, how intense he was and just everything about him. And I got one story I gotta say, and I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but being a ball boy at Fairport at the time, you're in the locker room before the games, and Don would have his speech with the kids, and he ended every speech like, "We got to get these suckers." And I tell him now, I said, for the longest time, I thought every kid on the other team, his first name was Sucker. Because, there was just his motivation, like his final touch of whatever he was talking about, we got to get these suckers. And just love being around it, and just so fortunate and blessed, really blessed about, being around people like that. It's just, and like I said, when we had Coach Quinn on, he was giving us a quick one about the Little Brown Jug game one year, and he was talking about on Friday night they had practice there at Fairport. Or no, they were home the next day, and against Fairport. And he said he was locking the place up, and people were coming up Coach, I got to put my ladder up here.
Yeah, right. Just,
And he
prepare.
said he was up there for a couple hours. Like as soon as somebody would leave, somebody would come in. Coach, I got to get my ladder, put my ladder up.
You know, you mentioned Don in that sense and what it means to the community, but I also want to, when you have coaches like these that we talked about, it is so underrated what they do, not only for their communities, but their schools.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you have a good football season, it brings an energy to the school in the fall. You know, the players come and they wear their, you know, jerseys to school
Right,
that
very
day.
proud.
You know, proud of it. And, you know, for us, you know, we had a marching band and we had great cheerleaders. And I mean, by the time you start looking at everybody involved, I mean, there's 200 people involved or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it just brings an energy to a community when things are going well. And you know, people want to jump on something, whatever it is, you know, but football, for whatever reason, when you're doing well, it brings everybody's best out. It really does. And it's so invaluable to a school. And I don't think that people that have not been involved in football really have an appreciation for that. And if you've been there, I mean, I see kids from 30 years ago and they say, oh, Fridays in school, and they didn't even play. You know, Fridays in school were just so hyped. And, it's such a great value.
Yeah.
Such a positive thing.
Yes.
I want to ask this now that you mentioned kids 30 years ago. How many former players did you coach their kids?
Oh, too many.
Did you have any grandchildren?
You know,
coach any other?
I didn't have any grandchildren,
Okay.
but you know, I did have a number of children, and you know, what was really cool about that is when you coach somebody's kid, you just busting chops on that kid constantly. About, you know, your dad would have never had.
Yeah, right,
Same thing you do with younger brothers.
Yeah.
Hey, your older brother wouldn't have dropped that pass.
Because
You know?
I'm sure you had some of their uncles or whatever.
Yeah,
You had a lot of
always.
that.
But in a small community in particular, those are the things that bond teams together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the families that come through. I've always said I just loved so much coaching the brothers or coaching the nephews or coaching the, you know, even the children. But, you know, that's just kind of the thread that weaves through the whole program when you have that, because those people understand that legacy, you know, or what they went through.
Let me ask this, John. Will you tell me how many total wins is that again for coach?
Hornell,
Or total ever?
ever is 240.
240. Well, when you have 240 wins, I'm sure they are all memorable. But I would like to ask you a couple ones that stand out, both on the wins and the losses that you live with, and you know, that were learning experiences both ways.
We went into Finger Lakes in league in 1998, and we went 9-1, won the sectionals that year. But the game that we lost was to Canandaigua at Alfred University. People to this day say it is the biggest crowd they ever saw at Alfred. And there's a little town 5 miles down Alfred Station. People were parking at Alfred Station, walking up. And we lost the game 14-7 on a illegal fumble Ruski. Mike Foster, if you're watching this, I'm telling you, it's still illegal. 91, we went to Canandaigua on their homecoming. And before the game, they drove the cars around. It's so loud. We were down 14-0 at the half. We came back and won 21-14. The one that I really remember, though, and this taught me a heck of a lesson about us as football coaches. One of the best football games I ever saw was in 1992. And I could be off on the numbers just a little bit, but I think Fairport was number 1 in the state. And Canandaigua played at Fairport, and they beat them 3-0. It was amazing. It was one of the most amazing atmospheres I've ever seen. So the next week, Canandaigua's coming to Hornell, and we beat them 21-14 down there that night. And so, you know, having come from them beating that to win, but the thing that stuck out with me is after the game, the 2 assistant coaches, Frank Labordi and Mark Bish and I were walking out, and we were walking out of state. Everybody's gone. Things are dark, and I thought to myself, this is, we should be out someplace celebrating, doing, and we had 10 o'clock film and weights the next morning, so we just kind of said, "Yeah, see you tomorrow." See you tomorrow.
It's another day. It's another day.
Another day at the office.
I'll share, of course, the state championships and things like that. When we played Alden in the last year in 2011, we beat them in overtime in the state quarterfinal. They were a way better team than we were. And we were down by, I think, 12 with like 4 minutes to go. And a number of things happened, and we came back and tied and had a 2-point conversion, and then went to overtime and beat them in overtime. But that one really stands out. In fact, if you talk to people that followed our games, they say it's the best game they ever saw.
Oh.
But the losses, one of the losses that we had was probably one of the most significant things that ever happened in my coaching career. In 2004 and 5, it was our first experience coaching at the Carrier Dome. And in 2004, we got beat by Shenango Forks. They were very good. Mm. But, you go up there and you kind of look at everything. And, and you guys have been there with us. You walk in the door, the team gate there, and the first thing the guy says is, "Don't open both these doors at the same time or the dome will collapse." Baloney, right? Yeah. So you get there the first time you look at it. The second year, we went there and we lost 21-20 at Shenango Forks. And we missed a 23-yard field goal with 21 seconds to go, or we would have gone to the state finals that year. I remember sitting on the sideline to myself thinking, I wonder if this was the last time you're ever going to get to do this. But I said, if we ever do come back here, we're never kicking an extra point again. And I'll tell you why I said that. I mean this in all sincerity. The kid that missed that extra point, I think he still lives with that, even though we don't.
Okay.
And I said, if we're going to lose a game up here because of something close like that, it's going to be on me, not on the kid.
Yeah.
So when we won our 3 state championships up there in 9, 10, and 11, the first year we won, we beat a team that was better than us from downstate, Nanuet. But we won at 16-14 because we went for 2-point conversions. And what we began to do after that, well, we'd always done it, but not with the same intensity. But after the 2005 season, we began building a goal line portfolio, for the lack of a better way to put it, of things that we were going to win. I'll talk about this when we talk a little bit too, but one of the 2 things that we just said we're going to be great at is we're going to be great in the red zone on both sides of the ball. Mm-hmm. And we aren't going to lose any games down here ever again like that. So that was one of the things that we decided at that point was going to be a priority for us. So, that loss sat with me till the next summer.
Yeah.
But you figure, okay, if I'm going to have a loss, I'm going to pick something out of it. Mm-hmm. And that was my thing. I'm never going to do this to a kid again. Because one thing that people don't realize, and when you play on high school goalposts, and then you go to college goalposts,
narrower, everything is.
And if you really want it to wake up, we played in 2004 the West Regional game at Ralph Wilson.
Yeah, the hash marks.
And those are,
even more narrow.
12 feet.
Yeah, there's not much to them at all. And but that's just some things we took out of losing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what is the longevity that you put in? What kept you going? What was the motivation each year? And was there ever a time where you even said maybe this is my time to exit?
Well, when I went to Alfred in 1996, I kind of thought, okay, you've done the high school thing now since, totally since 1976, but head coach since 1979. I thought, okay, I'm going to college and that's it. I'm going to do that the rest of the way through. And I, like I said, I didn't really like it right from the beginning. But I never considered getting out. And of course, we had enough success that we had enough success that it keeps you going. And the other thing is we built a program down through JVs and modified where the kids were also successful.
Okay.
And so, you could see these kids coming on all the way through it. And other than two players, I never had to start a freshman.
Yeah, upperclassmen.
Upperclassmen. In fact, we didn't. Austin Dwyer, who I think still has the single season rushing record, like 2,800 yards from 2009.
Mhm.
Even as a sophomore, he didn't play varsity.
Oh, okay.
And I thought that those kids getting a lot of reps like that, but that always kept me going in the sense of that. And you talk about what you talk to younger coaches about. One of the first things you have to acknowledge is that when you're coaching, your energy, the players feed off your energy, but you have to also understand, when you lose, the first thing that goes is everybody's energy. If you lose a couple in a row, you've seen it, whether you've been there or not. People don't want to practice as much. If you get further than that, but if you win, well, everybody wants to come right back.
Mhm.
And if you get a few wins rolling, then suddenly the energy's in the schools and the community,
Right.
and you don't have problems getting kids to practice. I hear coaches say, well, I had a kid skip practice, or this kid did. I never had a kid skip practice.
No.
They always came. And I think a lot of it was because, some of it was our practice format, but the other thing was, the energy of winning builds. So I never really thought, and let's give credit where credit is due. I had a great football wife.
Oh, well, right.
And,
That's what
and I had a
Yes.
I had a daughter who we have one child, and they were all into it. I mean, when football season came, it was a whole. I always kidded, my daughter when she was in elementary school, they were doing science like what the 4 seasons are, and she'd say, no, there's only 3: off season, preseason, and in season. And so, I mean, our family found a different gear, and there was never anything like, oh, can't we do this weekend? Because they knew it was football,
Mhm.
and they bought into it. One thing that we did though is every Saturday night, unless we had a game or unless there was an absolute scout or something like that, every Saturday night everything stopped and we went out to dinner together.
Oh, nice.
And so it was time and we tried not to have football, but when you're out to dinner in a little town like Hornell, somebody's coming by,
Coach,
and,
coach.
hey, I like the game, or that call stunk, or something like that.
Something, yeah.
There's always something, but if I was going to talk to young coaches, if I was in a clinic or something, I would say there's 2 parts to things. There's certainly a football part you got to get in touch with,
Right.
but even as important, you've got to take care of the non-football part, and that means about making sure your family's on board. But the other thing is you got to grow some thick skin.
Yeah.
And so every young coach that gets the job, and this is in any sport, there's always that enthusiasm and boy, I can't wait, and we're going to win this and that, and then you get the second day of preseason and the call comes, how come my kid's not starting?
Oh, yeah.
And then the 4th day, one of your starters is hurt, and then the 6th day, kid's in trouble or skips practice, and then before long, it's like, wait a minute, where'd all that go?
That's the
honeymoon's over.
The honeymoon's over, and you didn't even play your first game.
Yeah.
And, I think you hit on it exactly. The management part of the head coach is so important.
And I'm gonna. Some people aren't gonna like what I'm gonna say,
Okay.
but
That's why we say keeping it real.
this is gonna be real.
That's why it's real.
I was fortunate when I coached, particularly through the younger, that I worked with some really good superintendents, and I worked for some good principals and a great athletic director at Hornell, Coach Spody. But I think one of the things that coaches get out now is because I don't think there's that kind of administrative support that there was. You're getting, not that you have to have football people, but you're getting non-athletic people in charge. And, I only had like 3 or 4 years where I had a really weak high school principal. And, he would get a call and say, well, so-and-so wants you to call. I said, no, I'm not calling. Because I told people at the preseason parent meeting, I'm not talking about playing time. And right now it seems like every time a parent calls, somebody wants to have a meeting.
Mhm.
And that just drains coaches.
Oh, yeah.
Plus it takes your focus off football too. And if a player is there and he knows that he's going to go home and complain, and the parent's going to call, then that weakens the whole infrastructure, everything right there. I don't envy the coaches that have to go through that right now. But the only people that can do it, and I'll tell you where it's not happening. It's not happening. I don't know anything about their program, but I'll tell you it's not happening at East Rochester. Because you got a football guy like Jim Haw as a superintendent. You're not going to tolerate it.
Yep.
And you got places where there are good, strong leaders. They're just going to say, look, he's coaching his team. If it becomes a real problem.
Mhm.
Well, and the other thing, too, the other thing that everybody wants to do nowadays with this, and it just guts coaches, is it used to be if you would call somebody, they would say, well, did you go through the chain of command?
Oh, yeah.
Did you talk to the coach? And if not, did you go to the AD? Did you go to the principal?
Right.
Right now, they feel like everybody's got the superintendent on speed dial,
Yeah.
and or their lawyer. But I just think that's what guts young coaches out. So
I got two more questions, and when when he ended up going out, like you said, with a win, was it planned to leave at the end of that season, or is that a decision you made during the season, towards the end of the season, when you decided to step away?
I left a great team. In fact, that following year, they dropped to Class C from B, and they went 12-1, lost state championship game.
Mhm.
But I announced before the 2011 season that was going to be my last season. There were some factors that I'm not going to get into, but the real reason that I got out is the guys that were my assistants, the two assistants that I was pretty confident they were going to take over.
Mhm.
And I knew that there was a really solid core of kids coming back. But the year after that, it was really going to thin out. I mean, we were going to go through probably a really rebuilding season.
Mhm.
And I just said, it's not, I don't want to stay. I truthfully, honestly believe we could have won 4 state championships in a row. But I said, you can't do that and just leave the cupboard bare. It's not the right thing to do. So I pre-announced it before there. And during the year, I just thought, you should have stayed. And I thought, well, you're doing it for the right reason, so go.
Mhm.
And I don't regret it. I mean, I don't have, I'm 70 years old. I don't have illusions about getting back either.
Yeah.
But, I had 36 years. If I keel over today, nobody's had a better run of things, not in terms of wins and losses, but nobody's more blessed than I was. I mean, I had a great family. I worked at a tremendous school.
Mhm.
I love the kids at Hornell High School. The job that I did, I loved. And I worked for people. I mean, this sounds oversimple, but they let me coach.
Mhm.
And, if there was a real problem, we had to deal with it. And like I said, not everybody's happy every year. But I pre-announced that so that it's like, you cut the boat and you're out to sea, and that's it, and you're not going back. So.
Well, the last question then
Yeah.
is, so when you get away, and I guess, so where are they now? And what's Coach Gene Mastin doing now with his life? And I think that would be, the listeners would love to hear what you're doing with yourself.
I'll tell you what I'm not doing.
We're not coaching.
I'm not coaching. But I thought when I retired the first year, I thought, boy, this is going to be great. I'm going to get my golf clubs and I'm going to play every day of the week. And, the first week I played 9 holes twice, and that's good enough. So, now I get up, I go to the gym every morning. I'm a hiker. I walk 4 to 5 miles a few days a week. We have a winter place that is about, people misinterpret it when they say this, but it's about 25 miles northwest of the Strip in Las Vegas. It's right up next to the mountains. We never go to the Strip. You know, we stay up in our own little corner up there, but it's sunny and beautiful all day. I got two absolutely beautiful grandkids with my daughter and son-in-law that live near Baltimore. So we get down there when we can. And basically, not a whole lot else. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I just want to, go back just a little bit when you were talking about, being around, people, administrators and all that. And, and everybody, we were all in the same boat as far as having strong people around you, not really good, strong people around you. I have one I have to say, and I'll be as gentle as I can, and I won't name the school that I was at, but it was right before the start of the season, and our AD comes in, and he goes, "Oh, you guys, this year for football, I got all your footballs in, everything's all set, so you're all set with footballs." So, that's great. How many did you get? He goes, "I got 4. One for the modified, one for the freshmen, one for the JV, and one for the varsity." And we honestly just froze for about 8 seconds and just like, "It's a joke," or, it's just, but that's the sign of the times a little bit, you know what I mean? You don't really get strong people, PE teacher, sports people that are in those positions.
I was athletic director at Hornell for the last 13 years I was there. And I always told the coaches, come to me. And I always said, I'll take a bullet for you once.
Yeah.
And we had to have meetings occasionally with coaches and parents, but not a lot. Because I think a lot of that, everybody had to have preseason coaches meeting. And I've always told people when I had mine with the football parents, I was almost rude because I told them this is the way it's going to be. And they were good. Everybody always shakes their head yes until it's their kid. But no, I was really fortunate in Hornell that not just as a coach, but as an athletic director, we had parents that bought into all of that. And they understood. We told them, our teams are going to be the most important thing, and your players are going to have to find their place in that. And don't call coaches about playing time. If you're concerned about your playing time, then work harder and get better.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, right now what I'm going to do is just go over a couple things right here that we have cleaned up on, and then we'll be done. First thing I'm going to say is thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me. What a pleasure this is. I love Section 5. I owe my career to Section 5 football.
We all do.
The Dick Cerones and the Werner Kleemans and the Mark Viennas and Frank Marafinos and all of those guys. I mean, they built something special here, and I'm hoping that the Section 5 committee now continues that. I don't see why they wouldn't. But it's I really appreciate it. I love talking football. I love talking Section 5 football.
Yes.
We would love having you on, to tell you that.
Yeah, it was just this was a day I had marked in your calendar. I really had this marked, because we met, but we really haven't met like this. You know what I mean? We talk football, and we were talking about how we got involved in this, Paul and I, and everything. So we're just trying to keep it rolling, and for us, it's this is great. We love it. Honestly, love having people on like you, and
Thank you.
You said, talking football.
Yeah.
And Gene, we may have you back very soon again too.
I love this. I mean, and it isn't because I'm at a point right now where I could go under a rock and never come out and it wouldn't bother me.
Yeah.
But I love this kind of thing where you're talking football. I mean, it's coming into the best time of the year.
Yep.
Right.
You know, it's just the summer workouts and then the preseason and all of the excitement of the games. And I just hope that the players get as much out of it as a lot of our players did. The enjoyment, and it's hard work.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
it's hard work and it needs to be done.
Yeah. What we're doing now is, this is our last, like I said, this is our last episode here. Our next episode, which we're really excited, is Westside Game. We're going to be up at Greece Olympia, like we said, 3 nights. We're going to do 4 teams a night, interview the head coach, a couple players, and just try to get, we're just getting really close now to, football season. Even though we're in the summertime, it's there.
Well, we're starting in July, and August is right around the corner.
Yep. And after that, like you said, then we'll be over at August 19th. We'll be up and around the court for day practice. We're going to attempt to go live. I've been practicing a little bit of that up at school with my guy Nick Taranko, who I always got to mention, because this would never happen without a man like that. I don't know about you, but this stuff with exactly football. We're good with football,
Yeah, football.
but I mean, get me out of this.
Did you have a good AV guy at Hornell that you were dealing with?
I mean, we're back interrupting here, but
No,
what came in at the end? We had a good AV guy, but what came in at the end was Huddle.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
Huddle.
What a difference it was from the other.
And you know what? I farmed that off to everybody else.
Yeah. that was definitely a big help.
Yep.
Yes, definitely. So, we're going to be out at Irondequoit, and then, like I said before, we're going to be out there for the first game, Eastridge at Irondequoit. During the season, we said before that we're going to be up at Premier Sports, and those episodes during the year when we're at Premier are going to come out on Thursdays. So every Thursday night, that episode will come out. We're going to talk about the games that were played the week before, upcoming games of the week, and we're going to nominate a Player of the Week award. And I'm telling you, there's going to be a lineman in there one week.
There should be.
I mean, we love all the receivers and running backs and quarterbacks and all that, but we all know, having a team is built from those guys that have their hand in the ground.
Yep.
And we will definitely have a lineman as a Player of the Week, because that's where it starts. We just want to try to make this the best we can. Right now, I'm just going to go real quick through our sponsors. Our first one, G Athletics.
G the man.
So that's Coach G. Like I said, he's the guy running the show up at Olympia when we're up there. And he's our first one. And our second one is when we're at Premier Sports with Joe Mortal. Actually, the first night at Premier, Joe's going to sit down with us. And I'm going to have him on because I want to talk to him a little bit about, when he was a coach. And I think, did he play?
He played for Dick Cerrone, was his high school.
That's right.
Yep, he played for Dick Jefferson Day. So
Yes.
we're going to go way back with that one. And then after that, our other sponsor we have is Under the Radar. That is Paul's former player, Ronnie Crawford. Ronnie does a security business and all that. Our other sponsor after that is Rochester Jewelry and Tech. That's my niece Brooklyn and her husband Toga. If you need any stuff like that, he's over by Wegmans in Greece, across from there in that shop. And our other one that we just picked up, maybe about a month ago, is Custom Print, and that's Canal. He's up at the Street of Shops in Greece. He's right next to Country Sweet, which we all know Country Sweet in Greece. We know where that is. So, anyways, that's all I have.
That's all I have, too.
Now, there's one thing we got to let you know is at the end of our episode now, what we're going to do is, you've seen it.
I've seen them all.
1, 2, 3, and then we're
Keep it a real second.
Okay, ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Keep it real, Section 5 football.
Good night. Have a great night.
There was once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so you'd notice too. Sneaking looks up and down from across the room. And damn, what a hell of a view. I feel good, you look great, I like you, I can't wait. A first time, a first date, you're so fine, I'm so late. You sip wine, I drink straight. Don't waste time to my place. I feel my heart erase. So catch me if I fall. Praying that this night's gonna last. You got it all on tap, I'm loving your vibe, always have your back. We like all the same tracks, listen all night in the sheets all black. Said I'm falling fast, don't remember life before you, that's fact. I feel good, you look great, I like you, I can't wait. A first time, a first date, you're so fine, I'm so late. You sip wine, I drink straight. Don't waste time to my place. I feel my heart erase. So catch me if I fall.